Hey, we're back again for another edition of Trash Talk, and
Yeah,
Brandon
yeah.
is here. I'm here. We're glad to have you with us. I was thinking over the week because you got back from Disney, and there was something that you said to me from your trip that struck a nerve because I lived in Florida for 20 years.
Okay.
And if well, let me rewind. I was there when Disney was being built. I worked at Disney before they opened and then after they opened. So I
Nice.
knew it 50 some years ago when the park first opened. But then Lauren and I lived in South Florida for 20 years, from the 90s through the beginning of 20 up until 2013. Um,
Okay.
but you mentioned something about your trip that struck a nerve with me, and so I'm going to throw it out, and I want you to tell me all about lizards.
Yeah. Ciao, Travis Patton Sr. I hope you're out there, brother. This is for you, my man. This is for you. Um, yeah, so guys, we did the Disney show whenever that was. Last week, right? I don't
Yeah,
know.
last week we
Um,
talked about
eh,
Disney.
eh, yeah, and to be fair, let's unveil it. I was in Disney, but so some of that stuff has changed a little bit. Some of the things that I talked about, but anyway, if you shameless plug, if you want to hear the details, listen to my podcast, Life of an Average Joe.
Right,
But
which
comes out
drops
every
this week,
Wednesday.
by the way.
Yeah, by the way, every platform. Lizards, yeah. So one of the things that I remember as a kid, and then as when we went back to Disney, this was before it was Hollywood Studios. It was called MGM, and we went when my sister was young, and so there's a 10-year difference. I think I was probably 14, 15 when
Ah,
we went. So I was in that phase where I was about to be done doing family trips, and I kind of went on my own journey. My sister and them would go do their thing. I'd go do my thing. But one of the things that I realized that I really like the most, I love wildlife and walking around everywhere on the hotel grounds, in the parks, lizards. And I'm not talking the giant iguanas that you see get frozen on the tree and fall,
right.
although those are there too.
Yes.
Um, and amazing chameleons, like big ones with bright green and these and look, I am not Steve Irwin or Steve Irwin's kid. Um, Little lizards, some of them are bigger, maybe they're geckos. I don't think they are because they don't look like geckos. Their tails fall off, whatever. They can grow them back. Really cool when they breathe. They have this like bubble that looks like the freaking
Yeah.
dinosaur from Jurassic Park that spits at you.
Yeah.
You're essentially, when you go to Florida, you're in Jurassic Park. Let's
Yeah.
just be real. Let's be real. Uh, but Travis, and I'm calling him out because I told him I talk about this and then I didn't because I'm old enough yet. Um, we were walking. Well, first off, we saw an alligator within 15 minutes of landing. Not at the airport hanging out, but on the Uber to Disney. There's water everywhere.
Well,
And
they're hired to do that.
just hang out.
Yeah, they harvest those alligators and train them to meet the people when they get off the airplane.
They just shake your hand. Hello, nice to meet you.
Yeah, just so that you really, it's like putting a flower lei over your head when you get to Hawaii.
One of them had a sign. It was like Brandon. And it's probably cheaper than my Uber. Um, but we saw one that was really cool. But we walk into the grounds to the hotel and we check in. We eat because we're freaking starving,
Yeah,
and we go upstairs and I go, Luke, let's go explore because we didn't do anything the first day outside of the hotel. We just wanted to hit the pool, lounge, whatever. As we're walking, within minutes, boom, lizard. I go, look. Now, Luke has not seen that. Not saying he's never seen a lizard before.
how
We
did he
have them
react?
Oh, he goes, Dad. And I go, yeah. And I go, and he's like, dude, there's another one. There's another one. And he's a big animal lover. He like very much animal lover. He didn't try to catch it because I said, well, you want to try to catch it? He's like, no, their tail will fall off. And I go, it'll grow back. He's like, yeah, but that's mean. And I'm like, that's fair, you know? But we just watched. We counted 15 lizards from the walk of the hotel room to the pool. Then it just became a game for us. Let's count how many lizards we see. And obviously, when it rained, none. Right after the rain, we saw a
Yeah.
lizard eating an ice cream that fell on the ground, just licking it up. And I'm like, I get it. And we saw a lizard that dived into an ant pile and decided to just have a buffet. It is amazing to me, but what's unique about it is all these lizards look different. You could tell they were in the same family, but one was like jet black, one was like had a stripe on it, one was bigger, one was smaller. And then we're at Disney and we're in Toy Story Land, and we're waiting in line to get inside. And I look over to the right, just looking at because they got beautiful, everything. There's a freaking giant chameleon, green, bright green, his little eyes looking all weird.
Yeah,
And Luke
blending into the background.
and then I look over to the left of the chameleon. I go, look, Luke, giant monster, grasshopper on steroids. And the chameleon's just like,
Yeah.
I got we watched it eat. Literally, that was our entertainment in line. Lizards everywhere, man. Everywhere.
And that was what surprised us when we first moved to South Florida too. Was we bought a house that was in a like a walled community. We had a pool in the backyard, and every time you'd open up the sliding glass door to go out on the back patio and all, it was just like this scurry of all
Yeah.
these little lizards, and then you thought, oh, I better call an exterminator.
Nah.
You don't want to do that. In fact,
No.
the lizards are there for a positive purpose, and that is you didn't see as many mosquitoes, you didn't see as many little spiders, and all because they live off of that stuff. They're like little four-legged vacuum cleaners. They go
Well, and
around.
that's the thing. They don't hurt anybody. They're not
Yeah,
harming anything,
yeah,
Um, and God knows Florida's got the bugs. I mean, they got things that, it's like Florida and Australia. Like those are the two places that have the weirdest, craziest, wildest,
yeah,
crap. Uh, I'm cool with it. Like if I gotta sit there and get a lizard out of my house once in a while, no big
yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Much better than some, spider that's gonna creep into my nose at night. You know what I mean? Like, but that's what they were talking about. They were talking about, and then we got on the subject, especially when we were at Animal Kingdom, talking to the people that work there, and we were talking about, encounters with wildlife that just happen to be in the kingdom that aren't part of. And they said,
Right.
one time they had an alligator that somehow traveled up the water, which is, going to happen,
Is everywhere. Yeah, it's the waterways.
and got into the other alligator pit. And it wasn't the alligator that they brought in. It was, and I said, well, did it create a problem? And they said, no, he's still here today. And I was like, shut up. And they said, no. And they point, and the guy, because the great thing about the Animal Kingdom is they have so many people that are working there, not just as a park and cast members, but people that are literally dedicated to those animals, watching their weight. And I talked to him. He's like, no. He's like, he's right there. He's been there for a year. He done. I go, well, why would he want to leave?
You
He's
see,
got food. He's protected.
there are immigrants everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, we
I
don't just we just don't have a two-legged immigration problem. You
The
got
biggest issue,
four-legged,
we have a
you know,
four-legged, yeah. The
yeah,
biggest thing too that I told him, I said the one thing you probably got to do is certain times when you get the warning, just put a bush in front of them so ice doesn't get rid of them. You know what I mean?
right.
You don't want ice to take them out because, you know.
Yeah, the alligator police.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're called ACE. Okay. But it was really cool. I think that became a thing with Luke and I for the whole, 5, 6 days we were there. it never got old to us. I'm sure it gets old to the people that live in Florida. I'm sure they're like, yeah, we see him every time. But to me, and Luke, like just finding them in the most random place. We were on the rock climbing wall
Yeah.
and there was a lizard just chilling. And I'm like, there he is. Or there was a sprinkler head that popped up and the lizard was resting on the sprinkler head, just like, what am I doing here?
He's just waiting for a drink of water,
Never had one. Excuse me, never had one in our hotel room, but maybe that we know of anyway. But man, it was a really cool thing.
Yeah, if the lizards are inside, they really want to be outside. So they're looking for a way to get out. They usually scurry around in the house looking for that door that's open. There was one breed of lizards that we used to have in our home in Miami. They had these little like suction cup feet.
Well, aren't those the geckos? Aren't they got a flatter head and right?
Kind of, yeah, and what they would do is like the sliding glass doors. With the sun would be on that side of the house. They used to stick on the sliding glass door. So in the morning we'd go down to the kitchen and we'd open up the blinds and there's these, this thing stuck, and you tap on the window and they'd look at you like, what do you want? Leave me alone. I'm just.
I know it's like those. It's like those things back in the day in the 80s that were popular. The little Garfield sticky things on the cars,
right,
and they just go back and they don't move.
Yeah, that said "baby on board."
Yeah, and they're just like. That was really cool. It was really cool to see that, and we see them at night, and we didn't see any snakes. At Animal Kingdom. We did. We saw some amazing birds. We saw alligators. We saw some great fish in random ponds. And then obviously
aviaries down there are incredible. With the butterflies and the exotic birds and parrots.
Well, that was the thing. So at Animal Kingdom, we did this. We were walking to Dino Land or Dino World or whatever, and Luke looks over and he goes, "Dad, there's big giant birds." And I'm like, let's look, and I thought it was in a cage and there's these two giant parrots chilling, but they're really low. And then this guy that works for Disney walks up and he's like, "Hey guys," and I'm like, okay, it's a show. And he's like, "Can we go over there?" It's just in the middle. Like, it's not even like you wait in line, like they're just there. And so we walk over and the parrots are bouncing around, flying. And then, they were talking about that's their friends. They live here in the park. They've been trained, but they have free reign to do whatever they want.
Wow.
So you might actually see them during the day, like swing over somewhere else. And he said, don't be alarmed. They're very friendly, but they'll leave when they want to. And they were just kind of going over the rules. And then they were talking about macaws, which are those or McCoys or whatever they're freaking colorful macaws, right? I don't know.
Yeah, the macaws. They're the ones that talk. Very often.
Yeah, and they're on the endangered species list, which I didn't know that because I'm stupid. So he talked about them, and I guess they had 14 of them in the park that they raised.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? He's like, I think they're on their way here. Man, they came down like we were just dropping bombs. Probably not a great time to use that comparison. And we came down and they came swooping in and started landing everywhere. Luke's on my shoulders. One lands right next to him on this big giant rock. Like, Luke looked out. I mean, those things are big too, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was crazy. And he goes, we've rescued these. They also have free reign. And I'm like, what? And he's like, they don't leave the park. And at night they go to their shelter. They fly around. You probably won't see them unless you see them in the trees. Unless they want to be seen, they kind of do what they want. They stick together. And a couple of them left. He's like, see, they're done now. I was like, how did you get them over here? Like, that's what I wanted to know. And he's like, it's a pattern. It's a routine. We do it the same day, same time, every day.
Yeah. They know when feeding time is. They know when.
Yeah. And they got treats. And he said, and they're show offs. They want to show off. And I'm like, that's cool. And I said, what's going to happen to them? And he's like, we're going to reintroduce them into the wild and they're going to be just fine. Some of them may live at the park, others are going to take off. But if the majority of them take off, they'll probably leave together and then they'll go do their thing. And then we're going to try to get some more. And I thought that was, and again,
Raise more, yeah.
this is a fun
Increase the
thing.
depleting population.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
thought it was a really cool thing, not just to visually see, because I'm never going to get that close. But I also was like, oh, this is so much more than a roller coaster. This is so much more than, you know, than a ride. And that was cool too. And then, just learning about the conservation and all that. And they had a baby white rhino give birth, or not give birth, born at the animal kingdom for the first time ever. We got to see the baby white rhino, super cute.
cool.
Yeah, but the lizards, they were a topic of conversation, man.
Yeah, because wherever you go, you can walk into a restaurant and you'll usually see a few of them scurrying around. And again, it's because somehow somebody opened a door and they got in, and they
Yeah,
just really want to kind of get back out.
I get it. I get
Um,
it.
yep, because we used to do that: open up the door and then get behind them. You got to get
Yeah,
behind them
scoot them
in
out.
case they scurry to the and that's a fun that's fun exercise anyway.
Yeah, get them out.
So,
Good
well,
times, man. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna have to do a bonus feature just for Travis, because I brought it up. It's like a teaser trailer. I said it, got him to listen to the show, and then didn't talk about
right,
it.
right.
Bait and switch, baby.
Well, that'll do it for another trash talk. We'll catch you again next week, and I'll go check around the kitchen and see if you got any lizards. And if you do, just scoot them out.
Scoot him out.
Worst thing, please don't ever just throw a paper towel on top of them and
No,
stomp them. No,
do
they
not
are
do that.
very harmless, and they serve a purpose. They'll go out and they'll take care of those ant hills and the bugs that you got in the backyard too.
Yes, yes, yes,
They're good to
yes.
have. So from the Lizard King to the rest of you. You know who was called the Lizard King?
Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison was the Lizard King.
Boom.
See, I can't fool you at all. All
No.
right, go out, make it a good day. See you again next week. Bye.